What's up everyone, Lord MC here, back with another in-depth harmonic technical analysis video. I just want to say, apologize for not updating you guys with videos over the weekend. I had no internet since then, but thankfully I was able to get that sorted out today, and I will be back streaming on Twitch live tomorrow before 15 minutes before market open. So if you want to follow me there, the link to my Twitch stream is in the description box below. So before I get into where I see the market going into tomorrow, I want to preface by saying I am not a financial advisor. None of the things I ever say is financial advice, so take everything with a grain of salt and come out and do your own research. So if you were with me last weekend after market close on Friday, I did mention that SPY was setting up to what looked like to me a possible bear trap. And we did get confirmation of that today, where pre-market futures decided to just rip faces, and SPY ended up finishing 1.17% for the day, where it went as high as 375.45 and as low as 367.52 before finishing and closing the day at 371.13. So what's next here for SPY, and where do I see it going? So I do see continuation to the upside, and for that I wanted to show you guys first the weekly, because I think it's an important chart to look at, especially on the macro side of things. The SPY did generate here a deep crab, where for the past, including this week, there's 4 weeks that has been trading right at the 200 SMA, and obviously it failed breaking below that, and it did not like it being too long under what looks like 357. So what are our levels of support and resistance going into tomorrow? So if this wants to play out over the long term, you could potentially see a type 1 reaction where it can go up to 404, possibly 433 for a perfect scenario, but I don't see that case going to 433 anytime soon. I have an actual much more conservative target even below 404, but I just wanted to quickly share what it's looking like. If it really does want to have a type 1 reaction, you're going to have levels of resistances before you get there. So what are those levels of resistances? We're going to jump over to the 1 day. And bear with me, you guys are going to see a lot of drawings here, but there are a bunch of drawings that I think are important and key levels for the SPY. As you can tell, zooming out, we are in a descending broadening wedge, but in this range right here, I think this is also a little miniature descending broadening wedge, and on top of this trend line would be here, where T2 here is at 381.74, where I think SPY can go to before it gets rejected back all the way down. So what are our levels of resistance getting up to there? So one of the key levels that the SPY needs to break is 374. Breaking 374 will take it to 381, but if it does lose support here at 371, it's going to go down to possibly 364, and if it loses 364, you're looking at a heavy level of resistance around 363 to 361. If it fails that, it's going to go to 357, and from there we could possibly start looking at 351s and 340s again. But you need volume to start picking up. Volume was a little bit on the high side today compared to yesterday's, so the volume is picking up here. So jumping over to the triple Qs, just going to clear this out real quick. So the triple Qs generated a bullish butterfly on the 1 day, where it did go to hop, and now it's looking like it wants to do a type 1 reaction, where it wants to test at least 289, possibly T2 at 306. I did draw this channel it's been trading at, where it looks like it got rejected here. There's have a key level here on the triple Qs where it's 276.85, where it did bounce off of, and it closed the day at 271.48. So what are their key levels of support and resistances for the triple Qs? If the triple Qs can get above 276, the next level of support would be 286 before finally reaching target 1 at 289. If it drops below the 90 MA, if it loses 269, the next level of support would be where this midpoint is in this channel, around 265. Losing that, it would probably have the next level of resistance at 260, and losing that, we would have to test hop again before starting to create lower lows. I do think The Nasdaq looks a little bit bullish right now. If it could break just above 290, it'll be very bullish, where you could possibly start looking at testing and filling up that gap up right here between 304 to 306. Jumping over to the Dow Jones. The Dow Jones to me looks bullish out of all the three indices. It did gap up. It went as high as 303.38 for the day, and it closed just at 305.47. If it can come back and test tomorrow the 50 EMA at around 307, 308, you can start looking at that type 1 reaction playing out, possibly to 322. So breaking 308 go take us to target 1 between 309 and 310, and the next level of resistance would be at the 50 SMA at 312 before a continuation to test target 2 at 322.62. The levels of support, if it doesn't continue pushing up for the Dow Jones, the next level of support I would be looking at is 300. If it loses back to 300, you're going to get some chop up at 298, and if it loses 298, we're going to come back down to 290. So the Dow Jones looks like it was done doing this type 2, and it wants to do a type 1 reaction. So we will keep an eye on the Dow Jones, because the Dow Jones is usually the one out of the three indices that start to make the move first, and then the Nasdaq, and then the SPY follows right after. So jumping over to the VIX. The VIX is really hard to chart, but let's entertain this and look at this bat pattern that it has on the daily. This is a perfect type 2 reaction, where now it's looking like it wants to do a type 1. Type 1 will bring it all the way to possibly 23.34, but support would be first at 28.95 and then 25.96. It has been trading almost for, like to say, like the past almost month inside between $30 and change. So if we are able to get the VIX to fall below 30, I think it'll give us a nice rally in the markets, because anything above 24, in my opinion, on the VIX is not good for the market. If you want to have some type of bull rally, or excuse me, a bear rally, you will need it to get in below 24. So we will keep eye on that. It is hovering here at the 21 EMA. So if it loses that 21 EMA, we can possibly start looking at 28.95. But at any given moment, the VIX can just light up and then take us all the way up to 35 and then possibly 40. So jumping over now to Apple. So Apple did generate here a bullish bat pattern on the daily. It gapped up and finally did gap up to fill this gap. So we will take this out here. So it did close up at 143.75. It did fail to close above the 21 EMA around 145. So the next level of resistance for Apple, if it wants to continue doing a perfect type 1 reaction, like I said, type 1 reactions in an ideal world is to test target 2, right? But a type 1 reaction could suffice just on target 1. So the next level of resistance again would be 145. If Apple can get above 145, the next level of resistance I have here is 148. Getting above 148, we can start looking at 150.33 at target 1, where the 50 EMA is. You're going to get some chop, a lot of chop after that, at target 2 at 160 down the line, if that's what it wants to go, before finally coming back down and testing lows again. It doesn't have to happen that way. Like I said, that would be a perfect case scenario where type 1 you start looking at 150 minimum. But if it doesn't, if it gets rejected here at 142, which is a key level where the 9 EMA is, you start looking at potentially 138 again. And if it loses 138, I have here a level at 137.69 where we can start possibly seeing hop 127.80. So we will see where Apple wants to take us. There's a lot of things going on with Apple right now, so that will definitely be on our radar. Jumping over to Microsoft. Microsoft is also trading in an harmonic here, the ABCD, where the completion of point D, it's like it wants to do a type 1 reaction, right? So this is a perfect case scenario for scalpers. When you generate a harmonic pattern and you get a perfect reversal at the completion of whatever point, whatever harmonic is. So for this instance, this is the ABCD pattern. At the completion of point T, you get a strong reversal and a type 1 reaction. This is a scalper's dream. I said it before, and it's playing out perfectly on Microsoft. It's really hard to kind of catch those, but when you do, it's print city. So Microsoft did close at 238.50. I have the next key level of resistance, if it can break 240, is at 242.50. Breaking at 242.50 is a very strong level of resistance. Now we're at one point it was support, but now it's acting as resistance. If it can break 242.50, we could possibly start looking to fill this gap at 247, where you would then have 249 as a level of resistance, and then finally target one at 256.12 down the line. If it fails the 9 EMA at 235, you could potentially start looking at 230 again, and if it fails 230, you're looking at 219.74, where this point D was generated. Losing 219 will give us a 210, trading lower lows. So we will keep an eye on Microsoft as it does move the market. So jumping over to Tesla, let me just switch over to, I believe it's the 2-day. Yeah, so the 2-day, again, everything right now in the market and all the blue chip stocks have generated bullish patterns. Whether it's a type 1 or type 2 reaction, that's what the hard part to point out is. But if this is a perfect reversal, Tesla is looking to do a type 1 reaction at the completion of point T here. Now it's going to the upside, where it was up 7.41% for the day. It went as high as 229.82 before closing the day at 220.19. So the next level of resistance I have for Tesla is at 233. If you can get above this range, because there's a lot of chop between this range, between 233 and 236, you can start testing next level of resistance at 238, where the 9 EMA is. Call it 240 of this BC bat pattern here at the 886. Breaking up above 240, you can start looking at potentially filling that gap at between 255 and then 262. So type 1 reaction minimum would take us to at least 284 if that's what it wants to do. But we need to see volume start picking up, because the past week there was some heavy selling volume on Tesla, and you have earnings coming up for Tesla as well. So we will see if you get that nice push, right? So earnings could be positive, and then after earnings you can start looking at a type 2 reaction down the line. So having said that, that's all I have for you guys. I will be streaming again, or just a reminder, I will be streaming on Twitch tomorrow morning, 15 minutes before open. So if you want to catch me there, again, the link is in my description box. Just again, if you like this type of content, please consider giving me a like, subscribing to the channel. It does help me out. If not, it's fine. But I will catch you guys tomorrow, bright and early. So take care, everybody, and peace.